Oh yeah, guys, I wish we had smell-o-vision. We're gonna be making smoky vegetable beef stew. You wanna talk about warming that tummy this winter, it's gonna be awesome. Come along, let's have some fun. Stoney Ridge Farm. Smoky beef stew. Welcome to the Stoney Ridge Farm channel. Guys, if this is your first time or your 50 millionth time, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you back here on the farm with me. We are on a first generation farm project here in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and today we're gonna make the best soup you've ever had. So we showed you, and I'll post links to all these videos at the end of this video. We showed you how to can tomatoes. We showed you how to can tomato juice. We showed you how to make beef bone broth. We're showing you today how to make awesome beef stew. So the first ingredient that we have here is official Stoney Ridge Farmer beef stew. You can find that through our Patreon. If you decide you want to get some wholesome beef right off the farm, go to patreon.com/Stoney Ridge Farmer. You can sign up for the co-op, and when we have beef, we'll make it available to you guys. The first thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna open up some of our stew beef. This is beef for stew, as the label says. So what we'll do, we'll just cut right into this. This is farm fresh beef. These cows were butchered about 3 weeks ago. We're gonna lay this open, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this whole pan of stew beef, and stew beef is basically just chunks of beef, and we're gonna put this entire pan of stew beef out on the Traeger for a little bit of smoke. If you don't have a smoker grill, you can put this on a regular grill if you like. Throw a few wood chips on there and get that smoky flavor. All we're searching for is a smoky flavor. We're not trying to smoke the entire pile of meat. So for this recipe, and I will post all the ingredients at the end, you've got to stick around to the end to see the finished result, and I'll give you the recipe, and it'll also be down in the video description. So you want the right size tray, guys. You want to get a nice big tray. We're cooking 5 pounds of stew beef. That's a lot of stew beef. And there's a big old pot of tomato stock that we harvested right off the farm. There will be a link right here to how to make tomato juice, and that's what we got over in that pot right there. So the tomato juice is the base for our soup. So we're gonna spread this out really good. And we want that good smoky flavor. We don't want to make a good mess. So we're gonna kind of press this down just a little bit. We use simple ingredients. We use a little Lowry salt on this right here. While it smokes, it's gonna be on the smoker for about half hour, 45 minutes, something like that, at a pretty low heat at about 200, 225. It doesn't really matter. It's not an exact science. You're really cooking it over in the pot. We're just trying to get some smoky flavor. So don't start your smoker first. Put it on the smoker and then start it. We're gonna be using some beef stock right here, and we only have very, very simple ingredients. We've got some corn, we've got some green beans, we've got some peas, we've got some lima beans, and carrots. That's it. So very, very simple. I forgot to buy the celery. We won't do celery this time. Celery would add to it, and you would use 2 full heads of celery. I still may go get celery tonight and put it in this soup. It's gonna cook overnight, so this stuff is just gonna fall apart. So without further ado, let's give it a good dusting, and then we'll take it out to the Traeger. We got a lot of food here, guys, so go heavy on the Lowry salt, and you can just use salt, pepper, garlic if that's what you want. We're gonna dust that up good. That's about what I would typically put on a burger or something of that size. There we go. All right, let's get this out to the Traeger. It already looks delicious. Oh, daddy. So guys, if you don't have a Traeger smoker or you don't have a smoker grill, it's all good. Oh, we're so full of wood chips. This grill basically just takes these wood chips, cycles them through, and makes smoke and cooks. You can cook just like a regular grill. So if you have a smoker grill, you can cook steaks, you can cook hamburgers, you can cook anything on this grill just like a regular grill, and it's super smoky and delicious. So we're gonna crank her on up to 225, and we're gonna hit the ignite button, and the grill's gonna start up. We're gonna take our delicious stew beef right here, and we're gonna set it on the upper deck, on the upper shelf right here, and that upper shelf will get all that good smoke. The smoke's up in the top, right? So that's what we're after. We'll leave it on there. We'll set a timer on our phone or something like that for 45 minutes or so at about 225. We're not cooking it, we're getting that smoke flavor in there. Well, let's go on over here and we'll talk about what we've got in the pot. So in the pot right here, and it's really important that you keep this stirred. This is our tomato juice that we just made, and super, super simple to make tomato juice. We used a food mill. Food mill's over here buried up in all the dishes. I also have been canning tomato juice, so we'll pop the cover off this so you guys can see. Fresh batch of delicious tomato juice right there. And look at all that I've been canning. I have been on a canning spree, okay? So I tested my recipe out, and the only thing that I did forget, like I said, is celery. 2 full heads of celery would be awesome. This is what the finished result is going to look like, very similar to that. And what we're gonna do, we've got somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 gallons of tomato juice in here. So 2 gallons of tomato juice, and we're gonna add a few things to that. So we're gonna add beef stock. If you don't have your own beef stock or beef bone broth just like this, you can just buy beef stock at the store and use 3 containers of beef stock, okay? So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and pour the beef stock in, then we're gonna get all the vegetable ingredients out and show you guys what we have. Whole kernel corn, we have carrots and lima beans, and I mixed a little corn in there for color. We've got some green beans. We also have lima beans in here and a little more carrots. And then we have peas, sweet peas, and a little bit of everything. I kind of mixed all that up together just because I needed to get it in the refrigerator. However, you don't have to do that, guys, so just understand that. We are also gonna put potatoes, and these are the potatoes we're gonna be using, those little bite-sized potatoes. So we're gonna cut them into 4 pieces or 2 pieces, these little bite-sized potatoes, and drop them in. And we also need 2 onions. So we're gonna go with 1 purple and 1 yellow onion. Okay, very, very simple. We're gonna go ahead and introduce our ingredients, and also we have some barley. So let's give you the list. 5 pounds of beef, 10 to 15 pounds of tomatoes will make this recipe, okay? 9 cups of cut carrots, I'm reading it right here. 10 cups of lima beans, 6 cups of peas, all this will be detailed right over here. 6 cups of whole corn, 1.5 cups of barley. Beef barley. Barley really sets it off. 1 large red and 1 large white or yellow onion. 3 teaspoons of garlic minced, 3 teaspoons of parsley, and 1 teaspoon of black pepper. And we've got all that right over here. So, without further ado, oh, that garlic, that's what's really gonna set it off. We're gonna go ahead and toss this in a pot, get to stirring and get to cooking. Again, we are just going to smoke the meat. The meat will be cooked in here. We wanna get all these ingredients in here as quickly as we can. We gotta think about this. Our potatoes will need to cook the least. We're gonna be pressure canning this for an hour at least. So we're gonna mix in all of our ingredients. We're gonna stir them all into our base, which is all tomato juice that we made. Again, there's a link at the end of this video to how to make the tomato juice in case you wanna make your own tomato juice. I am a huge fan of that stuff. It is absolutely delicious. We're gonna get all these ingredients and pour them over into our soup. Now the barley is gonna thicken up the soup just a little bit. All this stuff is gonna cook down, okay? We're gonna be putting it in the pressure cooker for almost 90 minutes. Typically, I do 15 pounds of pressure for an hour and 10 minutes. And then as it cools down, that brings us to about 90 minutes. So let's just get busy. We'll get all the goodies in here, and then we'll start cutting up our potatoes and our onions. I've got a bucket down here for the chicken scraps because the chickens are an integral part. We don't put fertilizer on our tomatoes. All of our tomatoes are fertilized by our chickens that are down there in the garden area. Awesome, guys. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you back here. I just bought frozen organic veggies to go in this. Anything that I didn't have, and that'll be just fine. Our garlic, minced garlic, might add more later. Our black pepper really makes it pop. Oh, daddy. This is our green beans, lima beans, and you could buy just succotash if you wanted to. It's gonna be delicious. We're gonna turn our heat on up to medium high. We're gonna get our corn in here. Remember, corn has a little bit of sugar in it, so corn is gonna try to stick to the bottom of your pan, so you gotta keep this stirred, guys. Parsley, Barley. Yeah, baby. More veggies. All these peas. Oh, baby. Now, if you get yourself into the predicament that I'm into, which is a huge pot of goodies, we just have to cook it down a little bit, guys. So there's a lot of water in those tomatoes, and as this cooks, all the vegetables will start to settle and start to sink. We will cook it on down about that far, okay? So don't worry, we'll have room for everything. We're gonna go ahead and cut up our onions, and we're just basically gonna dice our onions and cut up our potatoes really quickly. All right, I had to call in a wingman here. I had to go ahead and get another stock pot because this thing is super, super full. We'll give it a good stir, and then we'll ladle out just a little bit so that we don't spill this all over everywhere. And it will cook down faster in 2 pots than it would in 1 pot anyway. All right, evenly disperse our taters. There we go. Let's go out here and see what we got on the smoker. Should be almost like burnt ends. Oh, daddy. So you can see the smoke kind of inundating that meat right here. All that tasty deliciousness. We are good to go. I will go ahead and shut the Traeger down. We're on here for probably about 35 minutes or so. All I gotta do is hold this button. It goes through a shutdown cycle, it takes 15 minutes, but I can go ahead and take this in and get it in the stew. Oh yeah, guys, I wish we had smell-o-vision. This stuff is awesome. So we'll just get our spatula in here and we'll just simply dump it right over into our soup. They look like gigantic chunks right now. They will cook way down, and you can tell they are not done, okay? So we didn't cook it all the way done. We just got the smoke, and that's what we're after. You can use liquid smoke if you like. I'll post a link to some organic, all-natural liquid smoke, and it doesn't take much liquid smoke to get this stuff rocking. I'll bet you we end up with 40 quarts of delicious vegetable beef stew. And don't forget all that au jus in there. Be sure you pour that in. So we're gonna stir in our beef and we're gonna put it on a low heat and we're just gonna let it cook, let it simmer, okay? Just let it simmer basically for about 3 or 4 hours. It's about 6 o'clock right now. We'll cook it on to about 11 o'clock tonight, and then we'll stir it intermittently, probably about every 5 minutes or so. We'll shut it down at night, and we'll restart it at about 5 a.m. We'll get it back up to a rolling boil, and then we'll be ready to can. So we'll see you guys first thing in the morning. We are ready to start canning, guys. It is the next day, and this has kind of been simmering all night long. So I simmered it till about 11 o'clock, then I shut it off, and I fired it back up this morning, got it up to almost a rolling boil, and now it's time to put it in the jar. So let me set this guy to the side. We'll go ahead and bring this guy over to our workstation. So guys, we've got the water warming up in our pressure canner, and we have our jars in here steaming. Remember, you can't put hot liquid in a cold jar or put a cold jar into hot liquid. It will bust. So you got to have the temperatures kind of equalized. So we're going to go ahead and open this. The oven has been at 400 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes to sterilize these jars. These are wide mouth jars. And right there they are. So they're all sterilized. We'll bring them over here and set up our workstation. So we've had our lids in this little pot right here, kind of steaming a little bit. Our jars are nice and warm. We're going to set our jars off to the side right here. We'll go ahead and instill our canning funnel in place, and then we're just going to start ladling out soup, okay? So we know we only need 7 jars. We can get the rest out of the way. 2, 3, I'm going to go all wide mouth. 4, 5, 6, 7. That's how many jars our canner will hold. We'll set these off to the side for use later. This is just one of 3, guys, so be sure you've got plenty of stock pots. And if you have to mix stock pots, in other words, if you have to use 2 or 3 different stock pots, just be sure that your mix is equal, okay? And sometimes you could just take both stock pots, have them right here, scoop one out of one, one out of the other, one out of one, one out of the other, and that's what we're gonna do. So here is stock pot number 2. We have a ton of beef stew. This will be enough beef stew to last 2 winters probably. And we will salt to taste once we cook this. I've already salted it to taste, but you want to beware, you can't take salt away once you put it in. Give them a good stir. This one's a little more liquidy than that one, so we'll just ladle in our delicious beef stew. Beef and vegetable stew. One from one, and one from the other. And we're gonna make a bit of a mess, but that's all good. As we get closer to the top, we want to think about head space. Head space is the space from the bottom of your food to the top of the jar. We want about 1 inch of head space, but it won't hurt to have 1.5 inches, guys. And it's also good to have a nice spoon. We'll just reach in here and grab us a spoon to mash this down in there. There we go. On to the next jar. Now I've got my jars all filled up. I'm going to set my canning funnel. I'll post a link to a canning kit. You guys need one. If you don't have one, get it. It's a lifetime purchase. So now we're going to reach in. We're going to get our lids out just like so. We're going to put them on our jars just like this one's already done, and we're going to put our rings on. We're going to tighten our rings down. Grandma tight. Not super gorilla tight, but grandma tight. That is awesome, beautiful vegetable beef barley soup. Smoky vegetable beef barley soup. Now we'll go ahead and we'll instill all of our rings. So get them in place. We'll get the lids on these nice and snug, and we'll take them over to our pressure canner. We're going to go for 90 minutes at about 10 pounds. 10 to 11 pounds is typically what we call for. 90 minutes so that we destroy any chance of any kind of botulism, and we'll just set these right over in our warm water bath that's already going in our pressure canner. We've got a lot more canning to do. Guys, once your pressure canner's done, wait till the safety button drops, open it up, bring them out, and get a nice rag. A moist rag always helps. And then you will cinch down your lids just like so. You'll give them a good tighten. They'll turn about a 1/16 of a turn. Let them sit on the counter until they have sealed for about 2 or 3 hours till they're room temperature. Then you're going to remove your ring. You're going to take this ring back off. You're going to watch these jars for about 10 days or so to make sure that they got a good seal. 90 minutes should totally make them seal awesome. You don't want to overcook this, so you will be cooking it mainly in the pressure cooker, but this is a long process, and that's why I do it overnight. If you want to start early in the morning, you can do it all in one day, but you'll be up till midnight if you start this at 8 a.m. Guys, thanks a lot for joining me here on the Stoney Ridge Farm Channel. That's it. That's how you make the most beautiful, smoky beef barley vegetable soup to warm your tummy when you catch a cold this winter, or hard days out on the farm. We can warm our tummies with some awesome soup. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time on the Stoney Ridge Farm Channel. I got work to do. Woo!
Well, come on down to the Stoney Ridge. Bring your wife and bring your kids. We're living life pure and sweet. That's the way it's supposed to be, Stoney Ridge.
So without further ado, let's give it a good dusting. Without further ado, I'm going to wash my hands. Angle down and down. Neat! We let a fly in. Oh, annoying fly. Where are you? You guys got to see this. Oh, it's so bad. Whoa. Hey man, why don't you fall on the tripod right? Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. There's the one I want. Spatula.